Divas, welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to do a little August reads wrap up and talk about all of the books that I read last month, which I read 6 physical books and 1 audiobook, which for me is a little light. In my defense, I feel like there were a couple weeks actually out of the month that I was a little sick and I'm still getting over something. And I was also on vacation for a week. I was so delusional. I thought I was going to have so much time to read. I think I brought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books, maybe 6. Not thinking I was going to get through all of them, but I thought I was going to get through many more than what I didn't. And before we jump into that, I actually wanted to talk about 2 books that are honkers and a half that I'm slowly working my way through, just to kind of touch on it, because I feel like a lot of times with these honkers, we talk about them after we've finished them. And sometimes, at least for me, I feel like there's this impression that of like otherworldliness, right? When folks can like finish these massive books and it seems like they finished them in a very short period of time, when in fact, most of the time it's taken them like a hot second to get through them. So I felt like it would be an interesting moment to kind of be like really transparent about like how long it's taking me to read some of these honkers. The first one is 2666 or 2666. I did some research before this video and I was like, what is this book called? Because I'd heard both, and it turns out everyone kind of calls it something different in terms of those like basically 2 iterations. And my understanding too is that the author did not specify which one of those variations that they preferred or were interested in, which I think is fascinating. So yeah, I'm reading this as part of my quest to read the New York Times top 10 books of the 21st century this year. I am, I think, a little behind schedule, but like that's okay. I think I can still get it all done. I was like giving myself, I think I had an extra month at the end, so like I think I can get it all in. But yeah, I am, there are like 5 parts. I think I'm through the first 2. Yeah, so I'm about to start part 3. Have y'all read this one? I don't quite. There's like a lot of hype around it. Yeah, I feel like I see it. I've seen it on many different lists. When I do like a full like review of it, I will put together all those lists that I've seen it on. But I don't know if I'm understanding the hype yet. I'm like down to do it. I'm down, you know what I mean? Like I'm this far. I'm like I'm in. I'm interested to see kind of like where we go, what happens. Have y'all read it? The first one talks about this author, I think, called Archambaldi. If I read that name one more time, yeah, Archambaldi. If I read that name one more time, I might throw this book across the room. It felt like every 5th word. Also, something interesting, I thought it was much more like Baroque in style, so I was like kind of preparing myself for that, but it's not. It like talks about the internet. I need to double check when it's set. I think it's the 90s even. So like maybe I went in confused. I'm not quite getting it. I'm not quite getting it yet. And I am intrigued to see if it starts to pick up in parts 3 and 4. Like part 3 is called the part about fate. And then part 4 is the part about the crimes. So, oh gosh. And then part 5 is called the part about Archambaldi. So maybe I'll be throwing the book. Because that last section, I think, is 300 pages. So, you know, we'll see. But it just, as a bit of transparency, like I read the first, 230 pages this last month, and I'll read the next, 6? Oh no, it's 900 pages. 700 pages next month. It's about 900. So yeah. So anyways, just like a little bit of transparency. Like I'm not reading this as well as everything else next month. So for a little bit of clarity. And also as part of that transparency, the other honker and a half I'm reading is The Loneliness of Sonia and Sunny as part of the Booker Longlist. And I'm several hundred pages into this. I think this one's only 600 and some odd, maybe 700 pages, which compared to this, short, concise. Anyways, I'm loving this. This just feels like such a timeless fairy tale, and like fairy tale, and I mean that in such like a respectful way. Like it's a beautiful love story. And I was actually having coffee with someone today, and we were talking about how like there are so few just kind of like love stories out right now, and especially ones that are done so successfully. Like it's not saccharine; it feels so authentic and genuine, and just beautiful. It's just lovely. It comes out on September 23rd. I will talk about it on here before that comes out, but like, and so I'll finish it before then. But like, let me finish it. But as of now, it's a pre-order. And there are very few books, I think, that are pre-orders. But, okay. So stay tuned. But, like, just a little bit of transparency. We are slow rolling our way through the honkers. Because some people read honkers. And if y'all are honker readers, great. Go with God. We love all that. But, if you're not, folks, maybe there are some folks who are, I don't know the right word, but, like, supernatural in the amount that they can read, and they read these multiple honkers a month. But like, I'm going to talk about both of these next month, and I want to be clear, I did not read both of them in a single month, like as well as because I'll be reading several others. So like, just to be clear. Okay, now with the ones that I finished in August. My least favorite. We're going to go least favorite to most favorite, and then the audiobook at the end. Flashlight, y'all. The further away I get from it, the less I liked it. And actually, interestingly enough, somebody got their panties in a bunch when I thought that I enjoyed this one less than the next one, which I'll talk about in a second. And the reason is this, which ladders up into why I didn't really enjoy it, and why the further away I am from it, the less I enjoyed it. The themes are great. It's the execution against the themes that did not work for me. So I'm like talking about it as a work, not as the themes. Because again, I think the themes are really interesting. The themes are some of the most interesting themes that I've read this month. But I'm not talking about the themes. I'm talking about the work, right? I feel like there are swaths of this text that are unnecessary. I feel like we were taken on journeys that we did not need. I feel like there were entire sections of this book that did not serve me as the reader. I felt that the characters were written in this really unlikable way that didn't have a payoff. I think unlikable characters are fascinating. I'm like so into the complexities of all of that. I love that. Take me on that journey. But I just didn't feel like the journey was there. I had some really intelligent people at book club talk to me about this. I may have mentioned this already, but like they were talking about like maybe the different characters and their conflict were like akin to like the separation and conflict with like Korea, Japan, and China. Maybe, but again, we're not talking about themes and ideas. We're talking about execution. And respectfully, for me, it didn't work. I also feel like it was overwritten. It wasn't for me. And the next book up is The Rest of Our Lives, which is also longlisted for the Booker. And the reason I enjoyed this one more than Flashlight is because I feel like as a work, it was better crafted. Were the themes as interesting and exciting as Flashlight? No. Was it a better executed work, agnostic of the themes? 10,000%, 10 toes on the ground. Like, fight me in the McDonald's parking lot. You know what I mean? Like, come on. And if you've read them both, like, that's true. That's just objectively true. Again, this is maybe a little more nose in the air, high literature, sure. And yes, like the prose is even though it's overwritten, there are sections of this prose that are really beautiful. And the themes are more interesting and intellectual. But this book is crafted better as a whole. Like my time wasn't wasted. I don't feel like there were half thought out ideas. While I didn't agree with all of the ideas and I thought some of them were a little lame, I still feel like they were executed more successfully than Flashlight, right? Like, we're not talking about potential here, we're talking about finished work. This book is about, just to get on my soapbox for a hot second. This book is about basically a man in middle age going through a midlife crisis, a 30,000 foot view. He is, and I'm not really giving anything away, they tell it right at the top of the book, but his wife had an affair years ago and his kids are going off to college, and he had made a promise to himself earlier in life that like he was going to leave his wife when his kids went off to college, and now he's kind of grappling with that and like what is his life and where's his life headed and what is his career, and like a lot of really interesting ideas. And I think 30,000 foot view, it's interesting to have a view into that, particularly in the male psyche. Like, I don't know how many like, you know, male midlife crisis books we really grapple with and sit with. So to that end, I think it was like, you know, relatively interesting. I do think that there's like a theme of basketball throughout the whole thing, which like the protagonist is like writing a book, or was going to write a book and then kind of continuing writing a book about like pickup basketball games, and is like going to different courts across the country. And it almost made me wonder, did the author pitch that book and it didn't get picked up, and so we just made it a plot of this one? I don't know. That might be my crazy conspiracy theory. But it just felt vaguely Wile E. Coyote. And like, I understand 30,000 foot view, the theme of basketball with the life and like the pickup. So it's kind of like unknown. And then you're trying to hold on to your youth. And then it's like one-on-one. So you're like playing against the kind of the unknown. And it's like a game from childhood, but yet you're like, but it changes because your body changes. Like, interesting, fine, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, one thing though, one positive thing, it's a massive positive thing. The writing and the editing, like that team, the prose flows like water. And I mean, that is such a compliment. Like, it's not, in my opinion, like super like flowery or like capital L literature prose, but like the craft is there. And like, we cannot have a conversation about this book without having a conversation about the craft of writing here. Like, there is craft in this work. And like, for that, I'd like so much respect. Like, it really flows together so seamlessly. And also, again, and this could be a taste thing, but like Flashlight, while I thought was brilliantly crafted at the sentence level, the way the sentences connected felt so disjointed. And that's why it felt so dense and difficult to get through, in my humble opinion. Where this, it was stitched together with just, you know, an expert quilter. You know what I'm saying? And like, it just all really flowed together in this incredibly seamless way, which I thought was lovely. Something else. I have heard folks compare this as like the male all fours. I feel like anyone making that comparison may fundamentally not understand all fours or what it was about. Respectfully. Sure, All Fours is about a woman in roughly the same period of life as the male protagonist in the rest of our lives. But All Fours was about the perimenopausal experience, which is like a hyper emotional and hormonal shift in the body, which then inspires potential, you know, feelings and actions that might not align with who this person was before or after this perimenopausal period. Yes? And All Fours is begging the question, what would happen if someone were to give in to every impulse and desire and urge that comes along with the perimenopausal experience, right? So it's just like fundamentally different. And I think to even try to compare the two is not understanding what All Fours is about, humbly. I think that there's value to this story. I think that that's an interesting perspective. I think it's something interesting to explore. I think that like men going through middle age have their own wild, crazy, things and ideas and but feelings and emotions and, potentially hormones that they are also grappling with. But it is very different. Yeah. Just biologically. So from love, I don't think that comparison is helpful. And I think it actually is I think it takes away from some of the impact and brilliance of all fours, respectfully. So yeah, the rest of our lives, again, it was fine. I don't know how much more depth I got out of it out versus what I told you. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's an easy read. I think it's smart. And easy because it's well crafted, right? Like, I think it's respect for the prose, but it was okay. It's just okay for me. And then my next favorite was The South, which we have talked about on here. The more I sit with this, the more I just don't think it quite landed the plane for me. Respectfully, there were elements of it that I really loved. I think that there are swaths of prose in this that are just incredible, gorgeous. But I just wanted more. I wanted more. Now but at the same time, I do think that there are elements of the gay coming of age that are really beautiful. I think that the touching, like when he describes some of their touching for the first time, that is so relatable and so visceral and so gorgeous. Loved. All of that said, I may be judging it a little bit harsher because it is on the long list for the Booker. I want to be crystal clear because it's part of a series or like a grouping of, I think, 4 books. I think I'm going to read the other 3. You know what I mean? They're not that long. I enjoyed the prose. I do feel like I got some nice things out of it. So yeah, I am going to read the other 3. I think I'm just kind of judging it a little more harshly based on the Booker Longlist and also up against the other ones I read in this month. You know what I'm saying? Like, I did enjoy it, but again, maybe a little bit with like the rest of our lives. Like, I just wanted like a little bit more. Yeah. I do think it was beautifully crafted though. I do think it was nicely crafted. And I've heard some like pushback that folks can like tell that it's one part, the first part in a grouping. I think the book stands alone. Like, that's not my central criticism of the work. I just feel like it wanted it to be a little deeper. I feel like it set itself up to kind of be like an epic, and maybe that will play out in the 4. But I think that it feels like an epic, kind of on the surface, and I want like an epic to go a little bit deeper, right? Like when I think of epic, I'm thinking of like the love songs of W.E.B. Du Bois, which is just like depth on depth on depth on depth. Yeah. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. Again, and take my criticism for a grain of salt because like I am fully going to be reading the other 3. So there we go. Apologies. I'm going to have to be drinking water through this because we're climbing uphill. We're almost over the illness. The next one that I enjoyed, which I'm not quite sure what it's about, is One Boat. I think it's interesting. I would describe it as a meditation on death. I really feel like at the center of each section, the author is exploring death through different lenses. We're seeing death just like in different contexts, through kind of different definitions in some instances. And I think in that way, it's very interesting. It took me a hot minute to see that through line, but once I did, I was able to kind of like pull it out and see why each section was there and why it existed and why it was kind of like an interesting meditation on that lens of death. Yeah, or of death through that lens. You know what I'm saying? The protagonist, returns to this small town on the Greek coast. on after losing her father, and it was the same place that she visited grieving her mother who passed 9 years before. So like, while it may seem obvious that it was, I mean, it's obviously about grieving and it's about her losing these parents, but I think it wasn't obvious right at the jump that, at least to me, my key takeaway was that it was a meditation on kind of the myriad interpretations of death. Yeah. I will say this book is not for everyone. Some of you will not enjoy it. But some of you will also love it. It's very kind of esoteric and very heady and very like art, as I feel like. I do think that it's worth getting just to read section 10. Section 10 is gorgeous. It is challenging. It is expansive, both mentally and emotionally. I think it's very interesting. And that when I finished section 10, I was like, oh, like spiritually, or at least, like universally, like energetically, like I was supposed to read this because of section 10. And I thought it was really beautiful. I will talk about this one a little bit more when I do like the second half of the Booker Longlist. Honestly, so you're right, because I've talked about the first group that I read. So I'll do another video where I talk about the second group. And part of the reason, to be honest, is because like I need a little bit more time to sit with it. It's really tricky. And a friend of mine online, I'll put their Instagram handle here. She described it as a magic eye painting, but like in book form. And I think that that's interesting, but I feel like I'm like still standing at the mall trying to get my eyes to unfocus so that I can see the image come through. Does that make sense? Like, I understand the key takeaways. I understand the death piece. I understand like section 10 and its importance and significance, both for the work as well as for like the reader and like the takeaways for life. But there's the final chapter, I kind of need to think about the entire book through the lens of the final chapter and like, what does that mean? So yeah. So for today, that's, I think, as much as I want to talk about it. But it's interesting. I like it because it's making me think. And there have been several Booker Longlist titles that have done that. A lot of them have sat with me and I've needed to like have some more time with them. I mean, Audition is still looming in the back of my brain. Some of these that we're going to talk about next are still there. One Boat is still doing that. Yeah. And some of them in not so great ways. Okay, the next book that I enjoyed that I read this month was Universality. Y'all, I think it's great. Folks have some varying opinions on it. I don't understand. I mean, it's uncomfortable. I think I would argue anyone who doesn't like it, I would ask them if it was because it made them uncomfortable. I think we're dealing with a lot of tricky themes. I think that the form that the book takes is very different and unique. I think that any book that is of this size, that is tackling the subject matter that it is going to be dense and is going to take a little bit of wading through and like a little bit of navigation, which can be challenging, right? So yeah, but I really enjoyed it. The first chunk, maybe half, is an article. And then the second chunk or second half is really about individuals and who orbit around that article in different ways and their response to it and to kind of the themes within it, etc. And also, it is a fascinating exploration of the like racism to class war pipeline, which I think is fascinating. There's a lot of discussion of class, etc. It's a book again that's like really made me think, and there are sections of this that I like really want to sit with. If it makes the long list or short list, I will probably read it again. I have to do my predictions video about once I finish them all to see like which ones I think are going to make the short list. I'm back and forth on this one because I kind of have a theory. I have a whole system that I'll walk through in my predictions video that kind of, I think the books pair maybe 1-to-1 a little bit. And I'm thinking of them a little bit as a cage match. And I don't know if it will end up working out cleanly like that. Like there'll be one from each grouping. I'm not sure. But right now they're kind of shaping up in my mind to be grouped a little bit. And because of the subject matter and like the way it breaks with form, There's so many that break with form that I will be shocked if we see a bunch of the like form benders on the short list. But I could be wrong. Who knows? The last physical book that I read this month was Love Forms. This is another one that has been constantly on my mind and on my heart. And the further away I get from it, the more and more I love it and respect it. Yeah. I have heard this book described as quiet. I would not describe it as quiet. I think that it is a quiet subject in general. And maybe it's like, maybe the treatment of, go walk with me down this path, the treatment of the subject itself might be quiet, but I feel like the way the book is written, there is a bubbling tempest underneath the entire thing that is like getting ready to explode. And you're just like chasing it through the entire work. I think the protagonist is fascinating. I think she is withholding from us for the entire work. Again, and we've talked about this already, but there are folks that are all up in arms because it's a Trinidadian author and part of this is set in Trinidad and the protagonist is born in Trinidad and like the way you're explaining things, a Trinidadian would know this. And again, I would challenge all of you. The question is not, why is this not written for Trinidadians, but instead, who is the protagonist speaking to? Because when the prose, I think there's beautiful prose throughout it, but I think it comes alive in this very beautiful, sparkly way. It like reminds me of like champagne bubbles. When the protagonist is very directly speaking to their audience. Like there is a person that the protagonist is, or a group of people. I think I know who it is. And that's when the prose like even like really, really comes alive, which then to me says that like the protagonist and the author knows exactly who they're speaking to. And that is what we should be taking all of our questions and judgments and filtering it through that lens. Who is the protagonist speaking to, right? The book itself is about a woman who gives up a child for adoption by her choice, by force, by coercion, who's to say? And it is basically about her journey and relationship with that experience and the potential reconciliation with that child. I think it's really beautiful. I think it's really lovely. I think I could see this on the short list for a variety of reasons. But I think it's really lovely. I think it's great. So yeah. I do. I think it's really lovely. The audiobook adventure that I had this month was Red Rising. Okay. I enjoyed it. I wanted more. I think like what was missing for me was the emotional connection with the characters. I think if I had had that emotional connection, it would have helped me follow some of the plot a little bit better. It felt, and maybe this was a me thing, right? Like maybe, because you know me, like normally I listen to several audiobooks over a month. And this, I only listened to one. And so it was spread out over like a little period of time. So like, did I have too many like days between that? Like that was my fault? Maybe. But I just felt like there was a lot happening. And because my like give a shit was like a little low, it was hard for me to like really feel invested and want to like double down on my concentration to know like, okay, this person is doing this to this and them and who's it's and what's it's, you know what I'm saying? That said, 30,000 foot view, I did enjoy myself and I enjoyed it enough and am willing to question whether or not I was the problem enough to, I'm definitely listening to the second one. I also have a very good friend who loves this book series. And I think he left a comment on another platform of mine and said that this really sets the groundwork for some of the other books and the other books are even better. So like, great. I enjoyed it enough to absolutely give the second one a try. And then depending on how the second one lands, that'll let me know what I'll do for the rest. Yeah. But yeah, I will say, so I was listening to it. Most of my audiobooks I do at the gym, and like the forging, is that what it's called? Where they like he is like part of a red, and then he becomes like a gold for this big majority of the book. And like the forging, like while I was like lifting really heavy, I was like very into that. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, like I'm down, right? Wild. So yeah, that was my that was my I don't even know what I was gonna try to say, but that was my 6 physical books, my 1 audiobook. All in all, I feel like it was a nice reading month. Listen, I was a little nonplussed with Flashlight, but all the rest of them, I enjoyed them. Even though, like, what was it? The rest of our lives, like, wasn't my like absolute favorite. I still did enjoy it and respected it, and like, you know what I mean. So like, pretty much enjoying 5, and like, even the audiobook was pretty good. Yeah, it wasn't a bad reading month. And listen, honestly, it shouldn't be because all of these physical books are from the Booker. So, like, it should have been a pretty good reading month. You know what I mean? So yeah, I am excited to talk to you all next month when I finish 2666 and The Loneliness of Sonia and Sunny. Also, I should be done with the Booker Longlist before the shortlist is announced. Wild. I'll do maybe a short on here to let you all know. Simon Savage and I are going to be doing an Instagram live, I believe next Tuesday. We are still confirming the time, but I will let you all know. I'll do like a little short video. Some of those get pushed out. Sometimes they don't. Did they show up for subscribers? Who could say? Honestly, there's a little bit of a question mark for me. Sometimes they love me when I put them out on here. Sometimes they really don't. So we'll see. Maybe it'll reach you. Maybe it won't. You can also follow me on other platforms, and there will be a lot of chatter about that live over there. Did I say we were doing it on Instagram? I don't know. We are. It's Instagram. So yeah. But yeah, fingers crossed. Oh, and I'm going to just put out the call because why not? My copy of Sea Scraper was on its way and got lost in the mail. And now, because of the timing that it took to even get here, or when it allegedly was supposed to, it won't get to me in time to read it before the shortlist is announced. So if anyone is near the New York area and I could borrow your Sea Scraper book, please reach out to me and let me know. And I will buy you a coffee or a beautiful pastry or something delicious as a thank you. Yeah, because I would love to. I'm going to be so annoyed if like the shortest one that I've heard is like very consumable and relatively easy to get through that I could probably read in a day is going to be the one that I'm not going to get through before the long list or before the short list is announced. So anyways, let me know in the comments if you can. I've been trying to see if I could get it on Kindle, but I don't think I can because it's not out in the US yet. So who knows? Fingers crossed, but like, here we are. Anyways, I hope you all have had a lovely August. I'm so sad that summer is over, and I will be back on here next week to talk more books. Chat soon.